My name is Brittany Furbee, and I'm a competitive home chef and Twitch streamer from Morgantown, West Virginia. I grew up cooking in the kitchen with my mom, and it was something that I was always really passionate about. I decided to apply for a Food Network show because I had a huge love for game shows and food, obviously, and I happened to get on that show. I ended up competing on there against two professional chefs and won the show.
The winner is... Brittany! Way to go, Brittany!
Since then, I've been competing in a lot of competitions all across the country and have been kind of making a name for myself as an untrained home cook. So now I host a cooking show on Twitch every Sunday and share my food with people that way. Today I'm going to be cooking a Venison Wellington. Wellington is traditionally just a cut of meat that's cooked inside of a puff pastry with some sort of a vegetable mixture around it. So we're going to be doing just a venison loin that's wrapped with some onions and garlic and mushrooms and some prosciutto. And then we're going to wrap it in a puff pastry, and I'm going to top it with a cherry balsamic sauce. So the first thing that you're going to do is take your venison loin and trim off any excess fat that may be on it. You're going to dry the venison with a paper towel very well, and this will make sure that you get a really good sear on your meat when you put it in your pan. So you're going to heat oil in a cast iron frying pan, and you're going to sear the meat all over. So you want to make sure that you get a really crispy crust on all sides of the meat. So you'll just turn it regularly until it's crispy all over. You're going to pull the meat out of the pan and set it aside and let it cool out on the counter for approximately 5 minutes. And then you're going to put the meat into the fridge and just let it rest. Be sure to reserve any juices that you get from your pan or off of your plate. You can use it later for our gravy that we're going to make. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the mushroom mixture that's going to go inside our little puff pastry pocket that we're going to make. So the first thing you want to do is chop your mushrooms really finely. We want them to be little small pieces because we want our mixture to be almost like a paste at the end. So we're going to throw a couple of tablespoons of butter into a cast iron pan, and you're going to throw in your mushrooms and let those soften for a few minutes. Chop up some shallots and garlic finely, and we're going to throw those into the pan with the mushrooms. So we're going to let those cook down until it's close to a paste-like mixture, approximately 10 minutes, and then we're going to add some thyme. Once most of the liquid has evaporated and your mixture is like a paste, you're going to add in your sherry and cook this until it's almost entirely evaporated. And then we're just going to set that aside and let it cool. So the next step will be to begin building your Wellington. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to lay out a few pieces of cling wrap, and this is going to be how we're going to build the structure of our dish. So once you lay that out, and it needs to be big enough to where you can lay out your puff pastry and your prosciutto and the venison, so pretty large workspace. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your prosciutto and you're going to lay it out in thin strips in 2 rows. You want to make sure that it's wide enough that eventually when you roll it up, it can cover the entire venison loin. Before you put your venison loin onto the mushroom mixture, you're going to take Dijon mustard and rub it all over the venison. So then you're going to spread your cooled mushroom paste all over the prosciutto, creating a thin, even layer, and this is going to be the base for the venison. So you're going to place the loin in the center of the mushroom mixture, and using the edge of the cling film, you're going to carefully draw the layer of prosciutto mushrooms around the meat. So you're going to roll it up carefully and gently, making sure that everything stays tucked in on the sides and that nothing is falling out. So you're going to roll it into a sausage shape and twist each ends of the cling film to form a tight log. Once this is done, we're gonna throw it into the fridge and just let it chill for a few minutes to set, so when we bake our venison Wellington, it doesn't fall apart. Now that you have your prosciutto wrapped venison, it's been chilling in the fridge for a few minutes, you're gonna pull that out, and on a lightly floured surface, you're gonna roll out your puff pastry. You should roll it out into a rectangle a little larger than a magazine, and trim the edges if you need to neaten it. So you're gonna unwrap the prosciutto parcel and lay it in the middle of the pastry. You're gonna roll the whole thing around the meat to create a little package, and you're gonna neatly fold under the shortened edges to create a parcel, pressing it firmly to make sure you get all of the air bubbles out. We're gonna brush the puff pastry all over with beaten egg yolk, and then using a back of a knife, you're gonna mark the pastry in any kind of pattern that you might want. This will help it crisp up on the top and also just look pretty at the end. We're gonna let it cook for approximately 30 minutes. You're gonna be looking for it to be really golden brown and puffy, and once we remove it from the oven, we're gonna let it rest for 20 minutes before we cut into it. So while our venison Wellington is cooking, I'm going to work on a cherry merlot reduction for the top. So to prepare our sauce, the first thing we're gonna do is combine the wine, cherries, garlic, and shallots in a saucepan over high heat and reduce until the mixture is almost dry, so about 10 minutes. To finish things off, we're gonna throw in a little bit of balsamic vinegar, and then we're gonna add our butter and stir until melted. Then we're just gonna season it with a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. You definitely wanna give your venison time to rest so that when you cut into it, all your juices don't flow out and make your puff pastry soggy. So once that's well rested and your sauce is finished, we're gonna plate it up. So plating's kind of important for Wellington because it's supposed to be a beautifully stunning dish on the plate. So we're gonna take a really sharp knife and cut our Wellington into about 2-inch thick slices. So we're gonna put 1 to 2 slices on the plate and top it with our beautiful cherry merlot sauce.